Here we go. Are you ready? All right, let's start turning that down so you can hear us, which is much more important than hearing that. We are back live Thursday night, 8:30. 8:30 on the dot. That might be a first for us. This is John with Movie Killer Podcast. I got my co-host Mark, as usual, sitting there and adopting the hoodie look. I think that might be our new look going forward, so I'm appreciative of that as well. And tonight we are going to discuss the Odyssey, which comes out July 17th, starring Matt Damon and $100 million worth of other actors, which we will list and get into tonight. $250 million budget, $100 million just towards actors. So a lot of craziness there, and hopefully you guys will find some of the data and some of the facts, but we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Still not there with TikTok, but one day we will rise to that occasion.
We're edging closer to our
yeah, we're just under
1,000
900.
mark.
Just under 900.
Oh, let's go, people. I mean, we just need like 6 more people.
6 more people to get to 900.
Well, I mean, close enough. You know what I mean? We just need people, damn it.
All right, so we're going to try something new tonight. So we're not going to focus on anybody specific. We are not going to talk about projections, although that is going to come into play. We decided that tonight, based on some of the data we were seeing, for a superstar, and Mark is another, as you would expect, super fan of Christopher Nolan. We're going to go through the cast. I think you guys all know all the different things that he's done, but we're going to list a little bit of that. We got a trailer as usual, so please watch us live, or if you want to see the trailers instead of just hearing like you did with Chuck Norris, like, y'all, like you got to actually see it. You can watch it live on Spotify and watch it live on YouTube. The other platforms yet, they don't have live, so you only get the audio. So we are ready to roll.
And last week we had a little bit of a hiatus. If anyone was paying attention, we didn't have an episode last week. So I think in our one week absence, I'm actually excited about this topic because Christopher Nolan, he is probably, and I thought about it before we came on, he is definitely my favorite director in the modern era. And when I say modern era, I'm going back, 2000, early 2000s, I'll say. I think before that, my favorite was probably Steven Spielberg. But the modern era to the present time, Christopher Nolan, hands down. Just if people are not familiar with his body of work as a director, producer, executive producer, it is obscenely good. And just his storytelling is amazing. I mean, the guy has been storytelling and behind a camera since he was, I think, 6 years old. He had like one of those Super 8 cameras, his father was giving him tips on, how to like guerrilla filmmaking. So he picked up a lot of those traits from his dad, but then he just evolved into, I think, just one of the best in history of movie making. So
yeah, and if you guys look at the image we use tonight to promote the show, and it'll go up when we post this for listening, I think that's probably my favorite image, the one with Matt Damon in the middle and then Christopher Nolan. And to your point, not only is he a great director, but he's a pretty good looking dude. Like, he's a very distinguished gentleman. And I was thinking about it. We were talking about who could play James Bond. I'm like, man, Christopher Nolan looks like James Bond walking in the room with his suit and his jacket and the hair. Like,
yeah,
he's like Shrinking on Apple TV. Shrinking, the guy that was Al Bundy's neighbor in Married with Children. I don't even know his name, but he's on Shrinking. But he always talks about his hair. I'm like, man, Christopher Nolan, he's got a nice head of hair on him.
So, yeah, he's got a very polished look to him. I mean, every time he's either photographed or filmed, he's very polished looking, yeah. And his his product is also just as polished as he is.
So you were talking about he's kind of your go-to. You know who my go-to is? John Papsidera. So he is tied to this, just like Christopher Nolan. I hope our loyal listeners out there remember who John Papsidera is, but he is a casting director, new category at the Oscars because of me.
Thank God. Yeah, thanks.
You're
Thanks to you,
welcome.
no
You're
doubt.
welcome. Whoever won this year, which I'm so into it, I don't even know who won. But Papsidera with Christopher Nolan is responsible for the Odyssey, Oppenheimer, Tenet, Dunkirk, Interstellar. We talked about Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins, Inception, Memento. Like, this guy is glued to Christopher Nolan. He's kind of like Ben Affleck with Matt Damon. Like, anywhere he
Yeah.
goes, he takes Papsidera with him. And these guys just make magic with the movies they put together. Incredible.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, his career spans 25 plus years, and just think about this. This is going to be Chris Nolan's, and we'll get right into it. This is his biggest budget, most expensive film ever. Like Oppenheimer was expensive. This eclipses that, and the reported budget is it's 250 million. I mean, it's there's been other big budget type films, but you know, for Nolan, this is his biggest budget, and I mean, he's earned it, right? Like, talk about like the blank check era. Like, this is one of those examples where, you know, somebody with a caliber of such as him, you know, wants to do a film as epic as the Odyssey. Like, you could span this into like a mini series, that, you know, kind of like anything like a Game of Thrones, is span it over 8, 9, 10 seasons. He's doing this in 3+ hours, right? So this is going to be incredible.
Well, and it's funny you say that because we were looking at this earlier, but the Odyssey has been done
8 times.
In a modern era. It's been done 8 times. And one of the ways it was done was in 1997 with a miniseries. So there was so much content to cover that Armand Asante played Ulysses, and it was produced by Francis Ford Coppola, which we're going to talk a little bit about later when we go through the whole blank check theme, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And there's data that supports both. But as we go into the Odyssey for July, you know, this thing's been done 8 times previously. So this is not something new. So for Nolan to be able to come in with some adaptation that people haven't seen before, and as recently as 2024. So it's out there, and it's, you know, it's been done. So I'm curious to see how people react to this.
Yeah. And then the one thing about Christopher Nolan, his just at the early part of his career, I think his first film was in 1998, and then Memento was 2000-ish. But I think what really catapulted his career is, you know, when he got the shot to do Dark Knight, like, you know, basically revive Batman. Trying to remember the exact date, but
2008.
It was 2008. Yeah. Yeah. And think about that. Like, prior to, you know, his film, the Batman series was comical, right? In nature, right? Like, you had, I know Val Kilmer, God, I'm already forgetting who played Batman, but
Man, you got it. You got Clooney, Val
Clooney,
Kilmer, Michael Keaton, who is arguably one of the best, right?
He was surprisingly good as a Batman. But you know, he brought that, he brought a different type of energy back when he revived that franchise. To me, I was blown away from the, you know, I still think that was one of his best films, only because it was early on in his career, and I think he just knocked it out of the park. And then whoever cast Heath Ledger, right? And, you know,
You know who it was?
Yeah, your boy.
Yeah, John Papsidera. He's the one responsible for.
And who saw that coming? Like, that was just pure genius. I mean, yeah. Well, give Heath Ledger obviously a ton of credit, but, you know, for the casting director to say, hey, he might play, you know, a really, really good Joker. And I think, you know, by far his performance was, to this date, is legendary. Probably hands down the best portrayal of Joker.
So let's go into a little bit of, I agree with you. Heath Ledger was an incredible Joker. He was definitely number one. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I apologize for that. For the Odyssey, director Christopher Nolan, writer Christopher Nolan, producer Christopher Nolan,
Universal Pictures reported, like Mark mentioned, 250 to 270 million, and casting director John Papsadera. So Christopher Nolan has a lot invested in this, along with his blank check, and he had complete creative autonomy and ownership of this movie going in because of Oppenheimer and because of his history and because of his track record. So if this thing is successful, Christopher Nolan. If this thing fails, Christopher Nolan. Like, he's got nowhere to look but in the mirror. And I think he's a confident enough guy based on what he's done that he doesn't care. He's like, blame it on me. I'm confident. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and he's a sharp looking guy, so I think he wouldn't mind the criticism, but I think he's earned more than earned the honor of spending this kind of money for this type of film. I just think it just makes a lot of sense. But if you look at his start and like some of the movies that he's produced, my God, it's just like it's such a solid history. I mean,
Yeah,
I could run through it, but
yeah, he's got it. And the other thing which is incredible on this is, and one comment on when you were talking about the budget and the dollars that went along this, and the largest budget he's ever worked with, he doesn't like CGI. Like, he's a very anti CGI guy, where James Cameron is like, CGI at all. Like, I don't care. Throw it all out there. I'll do it all with CGI, which he proved with Avatars. But he builds these super crazy sets, and he likes to film on location. And maybe that's just because he likes to travel. But the Odyssey in general was filmed in Greece, Italy, Iceland, Scotland, building these crazy sets in these like foreign countries. And like I mentioned when we started, he's got $100 million just tied up in payroll. So he's got to build sets, crazy payroll, traveling the world for this epic that's been done multiple times. This is not Oppenheimer. This is his first big giant epic that he's done. So very interested to see how this thing turns out.
No, but I think
I'll be standing in line.
But I think you brought up a great point, right? I mean, yes, 250 million is a lot of money, but the cast: Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, Robert Pattinson, Charlize Theron, right? Those are all big names. I don't know how much everyone's making, but you said 100 million across, those 6-7 actors. You're left with 150 million to shoot this movie. That's not a lot of money. I mean, we're saying this is his biggest budget, but all things considered, right? 150 million to shoot this, giving it to Nolan. To me, that's like, okay, that's not over the top as it may sound on surface once you break it down a little bit.
Yeah, but keep in mind, because of the 2.5 time return, this thing's got to do 250 million times 2.5.
You're right.
It's got to be like $7 billion, right? No, it's got to do like about 700 million to.
So they're putting the estimates, like, to your point, the budget 250 with marketing between 350 to 400 easily. So the break even estimate is about 700 to 800 million.
Yeah. So it's quite the hurdle he's done it. He's done it in the past, but quite the hurdle.
But the craziest part about Nolan, like, he's not even an actor, right? Like, he sells tickets based on his name alone. Yeah. Like, that's why he reminded me of like a Spielberg, right? If Spielberg was any film he touched back in the 80s, 90s, right? You're in all likelihood at least heard of it and probably had enough interest to go watch it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like you mentioned Spielberg, like, I'm in line for Christopher Nolan. I was in line for Oppenheimer. I saw Memento in 2000 in the theater, in this small little independent theater, that's local to us because it didn't really get a huge distribution. But yeah, I go everywhere he goes, so I'll go see it. The other piece that's interesting, and I'm going to show the trailer in a minute just to give us some basis of what we're talking about. But one of the things that's interesting that we're going to go into more detail as well is, and Mark and I, we focus on the data. We're very data driven. So let me premise this by saying, I think this movie's going to break even. I don't think it's going to go crazy. And I'm going to tell you why. I've been wrong once this year so far, right? I mean, Mario, the bride I was wrong about.
Yeah, you were a lot wrong. Yeah. Okay.
But when I'm wrong, I'm way wrong. Like, I don't miss by a little bit. Like, that was, that was a huge miss. But Mario Galaxy so far, the first 5 days did 375 million in 5 days. And so it's blowing the world up right now. But I think this one is going to just about break even, and I'm going to explain to you why. The math is telling me that. I have no opinion in this because I haven't seen it. You guys know I love Matt Damon. I love Charlize Theron. Robert Pattinson, even though we did an episode on Tom Holland, we admitted we love the kid. Zendaya, I saw the drama this weekend with Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. It'll get you thinking. You're not going to feel good walking out, but acting, they did a great job acting. So there's a lot of talent in this cast, but I'm still just not convinced based on a couple other things that we're going to run through. Why I think it's going to struggle a little bit. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
I don't know. This is a tough call. I mean, only because his track record has been so stellar. And in one of the interviews, Tom Holland mentioned that of all the movies he's been involved with, this is like hands down his favorite. He said he was just blown away by, and he doesn't like sit there once the film is done. He won't sit there and just watch every movie. But he was like, this one, I watched it. He was like, this one was really, really good. He said it was one of the best scripts he's ever been a part of, et cetera, et cetera. So, they're all saying the right things, right? I mean, they almost, not that they have to, but they're not twisting her arm to say that. He probably got paid 15, 20 million for his part. But he said, and this is quote from himself, I can tell you that it is an absolute masterpiece, and I'm taking myself out of that equation. Chris Nolan's movie is fantastic. It's unlike anything that I've ever seen before. And this is coming from Tom Holland, who's been on Marvel sets. So
yeah,
I think that speaks volumes.
That is pretty impressive to hear him say that.
Yeah.
And to your point, when you look at the movies and the casts that he's been part of and everything, like that's does a lot. I think it's all Matt Damon. Who doesn't want to hang out with that guy? Dude,
he's the man. Matt Damon is the man.
I can't wait to show you the one image I generated of him where I said, make it look like the Odyssey. It's like, that should be my ball marker. Like I should have it made.
Yeah.
And just use it everywhere I go and just walk around with flip a coin like I'm an old gangster in the 40s. All right, let's show the Odyssey and then we'll go through the rest because I'm anxious to see this because it just looks great.
After years of war, no one could stand between my men and home. Not even me. Promise me you will come back. What if I can't?
It's a good trailer when neither of us talk. Right?
I hate to nitpick here, but this is the only thing, and I'm a huge Matt Damon fan.
Yeah.
I actually wish they casted like more of a no name for that role. And I'll tell you why. So one of his most successful films was Dark Knight, right?
Christopher Nolan's best films.
One of his best, one of his best ROI films was, and then who's playing the lead role? Christian Bale. Was he? I mean, how popular was he when he was casted back in 2005? Not really,
Yeah,
right?
He had American Psycho. He had
Right.
couple movies. Nothing crazy. Yeah.
But I think that cast surprised everybody. But I think it was just, I mean, he was just so perfect in that role because Matt Damon has been, and this is where I think I would agree with you in terms of, what the numbers is going to, at the end of the day, what the numbers going to be. I think Matt Damon hurts this movie. I hate to say that. I think he hurts his movie more than helps, only because he's so popular. And I think he's been I guess I use the word overexposed. He's been in so many films that, an epic like such as this, I almost want like a relative no name,
And star fatigue is a real thing, right? Like they've done studies on it. When you take an actor and you just overexpose him, it actually has a negative return.
Yeah.
So,
like, remember, I know this was not a huge epic film, but remember that movie, The Wall, where he was.
I love The Wall. Pedro Pascal, like they're both in it. Willem Dafoe is in that.
And how much money did that make?
Nothing.
Right.
No money, and I loved it.
So when I'm watching this trailer, and even like when I was thinking about, this Odyssey, I'm like, man, I'm thinking like, who could play that role? In my head, did you ever watch Valhalla, the series? The Viking?
Yes, but I watched.
I think the guy
versions and everything of that.
I think the guy that played Harold Sigerson, I think he would have been a perfect cast for this role. Not popular, but he was awesome in Valhalla, and he looks the part. Leo Sutter is his name. I think he would have been. I think that would have made a difference. I think Matt Damon is just, for this type of film, I just think way too just overexposed. That's my hot take on that.
That's a good cast choice too. Like you can sit and picture him walking into that role,
dude. Yeah,
from Vikings all the way through to Valhalla. That's what I was trying to think of, like the original series of Vikings, and it went all the way. But picturing him walking up through the woods with that Matt Damon with the Ulysses outfit on, that's a good choice.
Maybe I apply for that position.
You should reach out to Papsadera and say, "Hey, can I intern under you?"
Right. Can we course correct here? Is it too late to course correct on this film?
I know you cast Heath Ledger as the Joker.
I know, right?
I'd like to second guess your choice for Ulysses.
Yeah. So for the audience that's not in tune with my boy Chris Nolan, just give you a quick rundown. 2005, this was like his turning point of it. This basically launched his career. Batman Begins. 2006, he followed that up with The Prestige. Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, right? 2008, The Dark Knight. Incredible. That was the Heath Ledger film. 2010, Inception with Leo. 2012, Dark Knight Rises. I mean, that was okay. Here's another one. 2013, Man of Steel. When he rebooted that front. Dude, that is
the thing. I hated it. It was terrible.
I thought that was the best Superman ever produced.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 2013. Interstellar, 2014. Matt McConaughey, Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
Dunkirk, 2017. Oppenheimer, 2023. Like, those are some, like, if I was a director, producer, and I produced one of them, dude, like, I'm in cloud nine forever. I mean, this guy's just hit after hit after hit. And those are cool films. They sound, badass. But if you look at the numbers, they're just as badass. Dark Knight, budget 185, grossed 1 billion. That's a 5+ ROI. Oppenheimer, 100 million, 975 gross. Dude, that's like sick. Inception, 160 on an 836 million gross, 5x.
Yeah, he could retire tomorrow and say, "Look what I've done."
Oh,
never make another movie.
It doesn't end. The Dark Knight, 250, 1.0 over $1 billion. So that 4x'd. Interstellar, 165 million budget, 677 gross, 4x. Dunkirk, 100 million, 527 gross, 5x. And Tenet.
Tenet. Yeah.
This is the only bomb, like considered
It
bomb.
was a lower return.
Yeah.
People said it was too technical and too many twists to follow. Like
$200 million budget on a 365 return.
Yeah.
So, right, like this guy is as in terms of a gamble, he's as close to a sure thing in terms of a director producer as you can find out there.
So let me give you, and this is one of the reasons why Mark and I do so well as host and co-host and putting the show together. I'm going to give you the opposite end of that. And I'm not going to talk about his career. I'm going to talk about the Odyssey specifically and why I think the Odyssey is going to have problems, right?
Okay.
In spite of Christopher Nolan, I think he's going to do everything he can to make this thing successful. But there's some things that are going against him. And the funny thing is, to go back real quick, and you were talking about the guy from Valhalla, all I kept thinking it was Nicholas Galitzin. I'm like, man, why don't we just put him in there? Nobody's ever heard of this guy. Let him have a hell of a summer. Maybe he'll make some money because he's going to blow He-Man up. Not to take that back to that, but
oh God.
All right. So there is a metric in Hollywood. This is proven. I'm not making this up. If the same person does 3 roles, 3 different components of the same movie, the movie has a 1 in 2 chance of failing. 50-50 shot if you do 3 roles within a movie. If you do 4 roles within the movie, and I'll explain what I mean by the roles. If you do 4 roles into the movie, it's a 1 in 4 chance of success. So you got like a 75% chance of failure if you do 4 things. And what I mean by that is if you're the writer, the director, and the star, you got a 50-50 shot that your movie's going to fail. If you add a 4th part into that, it drops down to 25% success. Now, the editor apparently is if you take anything within editing part of that, the movie fails. So if you got 4 things and one of the 4 is editing, the movie's, there's no chance of success. And there's like case after case after case after case. So it shows the importance of the editing, and a lot of that,
no doubt,
they attribute to ego. So if you have 3 other roles and you're the editor, nothing ends up on the cutting room floor and everything ends up in the movie. And they're like, oh my God, it's just somebody needs to go edit this thing. So for the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan, like we mentioned, he is the co-writer, which is an adapted screenplay, right? He is the director, obviously, and he's also producer. So one of the things against him right now is he's got 3 roles within this movie. And the role could be anything. It could be star. It could be casting director. They could do whatever, but it's major roles. It's not like you're the gaffer, right?
Right.
So he's got 3 going into this. So he's already got a 50-50 shot that the movie is not going to do well. Now, there's another piece that you add into that. These epic films, Christopher Nolan has never put together a movie that is non-linear. And what I mean by that, it starts at one point in time and moves forward. The Odyssey is one of those movies where they basically say it's like 5 movies that are stitched together. And, you got the Cyclops, you got the Sirens, you got Circe, you got all these different parts of this movie where basically Christopher Nolan has to take these pieces and stitch them together.
Yeah.
He's never done that before. So now you got this guy who says, I got to stitch these 5 movies together and I got to put it together, which they said from an audience perspective, they have a hard time following. And a lot of movies like that do not do well. I'm going to give you 2 more. He shot this thing in 140 millimeter IMAX format. It's the only movie that's ever been done 100% start to finish in this IMAX format. There are 50 theaters worldwide that can show a movie in this format, in the true format in which he shot it in. So you're going to watch it in either like 15 or 70 millimeter film, unless you go to one of the 50 in the world. And they've done this test. And what they did is they said, if a movie is shot in IMAX and people go to watch it in a regular theater and can't watch it in IMAX, the people that watched it in the regular theater don't go back and watch it a second time. And within week 2, there's a big drop off because they feel like they missed out. So, and they're not going to pay $80 to go see it again with the popcorn and your $8 hot dog and everything else. So they're saying the ego of 3 roles within the movie, which it's not a big deal. It's a 50-50 shot. The movie's going to be successful. Christopher Nolan's name is going to drive it into the 50 success. You shoot it in a format that only 50 theaters in the world can watch it in the format that it's supposed to be shot in. You got $100 million budget for the stars because he packed this thing with stars to the point where other movies could not be filmed while he was filming the Odyssey. They said Hollywood was almost at a standstill because of all the people he jammed into this. You got John Barenthal, who's the Punisher, who's been in a bunch of Marvel stuff. You got all the other people that got mentioned. So you got this star salary weight that's driving up the budget into a budget that he's never worked in before. And the epic movie that's these like historical, whatever you want to call them, like the Gladiator 2, all these other components that go into that have a low success rate. So Troy cost $175 million. It only made $494. It was a barely break even. Exodus, Gods and Kings, $140 million did $268. Gladiator 2, $250 million price tag, only broke even when it started pulling in all the international money, but domestically was a failure. So you got Christopher Nolan with these ancient history remake with no real hook because the Odyssey's been done 8 other times, right? Gladiator had a huge following, broke even. So they're saying it's not going to do it. I got a whole list of stuff.
You're being a hater. No,
Your
your data is solid. I'll give you that. But here's some early indicators to kind of counter that. And this is, this is me with my counter to that. So Nolan, by and large, he's a box office machine. Can we agree on that, right? He's one of the few directors that can actually sell tickets on just his name alone. So you're right, entirely shot in an IMAX film. Yes. However, did you know that the early ticket sales sold out a year in advance?
I did not know that.
Okay. So this screams like this is a must-see in theaters. Like you're not waiting for this to come out on whatever format. This is something you have to see in like this movie is a movie you have to see in theaters. And I think that was his goal. Like, I don't want a story tell for you sitting your fat ass on the couch. You're getting up, you're gonna pay the $12 for the movie or more, and you're gonna buy your $8 hot dog and your soda pop, and you're gonna watch this movie. What it has going for it, it's Greek mythology, right? So it's got that universal storyline. So to me, it's got a massive international upside. So that's why so in terms of, talk about your risk, right? It's not Marvel, not Star Wars. It's not a sequel. This is really kind of original storytelling, but really at a blockbuster scale because of the budget. It's a complex story. It's a long movie, 3+ hours. So they're not going to get enough turnover on the seats. Like a restaurant, you want to make money, you want to turn seats over.
Yeah.
3.5 hours plus all the trailers, right? You're talking about close to 4 hours at the movies. Right? I mean, so yeah, that's
brutal.
Yeah. So your casual audience is probably not going to show up repeatedly.
Plus, along those same lines, and I thought I didn't know this, and I thought this was really interesting when I saw this metric, and then when you think about it, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take a 3+ hour movie compared to a normal, an average 2-hour movie,
okay,
you lose 10% seat turnover.
Yes.
For the playing of the movie. So you're getting 10% revenue compared to less of a 2-hour movie compared to a 3-hour movie. So they lose one full screening day per theater for every 20 minutes over a 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. So 3 hours, you're losing 3 theater days of revenue. Every theater, 3,000 theaters, 4,000 theaters. This thing will be showing everywhere.
Right.
And you're losing 3 days per theater of revenue because of your runtime bloat. right? Because this thing's just going on forever. To your point, almost potentially 4 hours.
Oh yeah, with those damn trailers in the beginning, right? And then Nicole Kidman and her whatever, if you're watching it.
So over that. They need
Yeah.
to cut that out.
It's so old too, right? Like it's such an old commercial. Like update it. I'll throw somebody else in there.
AMC just because I don't want to watch her 20-second nonsense of walking down the stairs. Right? I just don't care.
Yeah.
Give me the cool Coke guy. The Coke guy, he does his little dance. He moves.
Nah, I'm over that too. That's like two years old. I don't know. Just do something just different. Refresh it, would you? I mean, jeez.
You got Maria Menounos, whatever her thing is, whatever her deal.
Yeah.
Movie trivia, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Can you guys tell we go to way too many movies? That it's like watching the Oscar Mayer commercial when you're talking about stuff. Like we got this stuff down.
Right. But in terms of so the ROI on this, and let's just talk about that for a second, right? So we agree that it's got to make at least 700 million to break even. So anything above 700, let's say 7 to 900 million, I would call this a pretty solid return. I mean, that's a lot of damn money, right? 7 to 900, 250 plus the marketing, you're at 4-ish. 7 to 900 million. This is a solid hit.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, if it doesn't break $1 billion, it's going to be considered a fail, which is terrible, right?
I don't know,
because of his reputation and his track record and the star power that he's bringing to this thing.
Let's just say this thing lands at 800 million. There's no way I'm calling that a flop.
I call that a break even.
I think that's a hit at that point because your break even it's got to be closer to 700.
Yeah.
Right.
700 to 800. I mean,
actually, no.
Look,
what am I saying?
$100 million to me and you is I'll never work another day. Right. I mean, it's life changing. $100 million on a movie like this with everything that is in, I think it's like $10 to me and you. Right.
But actually now that I think about it, I think I would say under 500 million is a disappointment. I think they come out of that risk zone once they start hitting that 600-700 million return, because this is still about 400 million all in, with the marketing. So if it hits 7,
2.5 times on 700 on 250, so it's got to do at least 6 over 6.
Okay, so for me, if it hits 7 to 900 million, I would consider this a hit. Anything $1 billion over, obviously that's a success story, and I think that would.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just looking.
I think that would maybe change the dynamics in like Hollywood, right? Like everything is IP driven, but this is different, right? On a very large blockbuster scale. Like if this succeeds, man, you're gonna see other directors, producers attempting the same thing with this original storytelling with a big fat budget.
Yeah, I might have to go back and change this. I have this rated as a high probability that it's going to do well.
Yeah.
After all the data and the extra stuff I've been gathering, and as we just get smarter and smarter through this whole thing, I might have to go back and change this to a moderate. I don't know. I don't have the confidence I did when I looked at this the first time with just Christopher Nolan and Pap Sedaris and Matt Damon's return and Charlize Theron, Anne Hathaway. Like now that we're getting better with data and I look at a little bit more of the data points, I think this thing's I think it's a little bit at risk. I've convinced myself in a negative way.
Wow. I don't know. I don't know if it's a risk. I just don't think it's going to be a runaway blockbuster. That's kind of where I'm at. And I hate to say it, and I think Matt Damon has a lot to do with it. Only because it's just too much Matt Damon over the last 3 to 5 years. I mean, shit, he just pulled off a heist with Ben Affleck like 3 weeks ago, dude.
Yeah, the guy's busy. He's running Hollywood.
I mean, damn. What was it called? The
Rip.
The Rip.
Yeah.
You go from the Rip to, like sailing the 7 seas, finding your way back to Island Ithaca to find, to get back home to your wife Penelope and your son.
Yeah, dude. And I was looking at that. Anne Hathaway did not look good in that trailer, right? Like
that's another one.
Catwoman, Anne Hathaway, I might be fighting the Cyclops to get back to.
Why couldn't they just? I mean, that I get it. There's going to be a parallel storyline with Penelope, like, the wife, but
Yeah.
cast somebody else, man. You don't need her for that.
I don't know. Maybe they
Unless
need
he
somebody who was
unless
looking
he
a little down.
well, maybe I don't know, maybe Christopher Nolan owed her a favor or something. I don't know, but
Maybe from Interstellar. Hey, remember when I stuck you in the water for 4 days in Interstellar? Can you come back
right.
and do this for me?
Yeah.
But here, I grabbed a couple other metrics that I'm going to
Okay.
start tracking, right? So in addition to all the other stuff we're tracking, I created a budget to genre ratio, which means like certain genres do really well and certain genres don't. And this one with this like ancient history genre is, and look, I need folks who are listening, I got to put a little time into this, but this is the foundation of how we're going to look at this stuff. So I created this budget to genre ratio, and I use like King Arthur and Gladiator and some other things. Statistical risk, looking at that, high. It's a high budget for that type of movie. Then I created runtime pressure, I called it. So anything 3+ hours. So I don't know what the exact runtime is. I've heard it's about 3 hours, maybe a little bit more. So until I know for sure, I classified that as a medium.
Okay.
Something just fell. Then I got the intellectual barrier, which I started thinking about when you were talking about Tenet, and I was looking at this earlier today. Interstellar is another one. Is the movie too smart for an audience? And this is a tough one because Tenet didn't do well, and the general feedback was there was just too much going on, and you had to be too smart.
I honestly had I watched that movie twice just because, to your point, I was like, man, what are they trying to do here? Like, what story are they trying to tell? And I'm trying to stitch it together. I came away feeling that I was okay with the movie. I wasn't in love with it. I didn't hate it either. So
Yeah, but to your point, some of these things you got to watch a couple times, and you're not going to do that in the theater. You'll wait till it comes on streaming, right?
Yeah.
Like Deception was one that I had to watch a few times. Memento. I watched Memento a couple times, and I picked up things each time that I missed the first time I watched it. So I think the intellectual barrier on this one is probably medium to low, right? I can't imagine the Odyssey when you had to read it in high school and you've seen it 5 other times and everything else. I think people are going to be able to pick up on that.
Yeah.
And then format dependency, which I've never thought of before until I started reading all the data about this IMAX thing and the fact that there's only 50 theaters in the world that
Didn't
can
know
even
that.
show it in
Yeah.
the format. Yeah. You know what my algorithmic output is?
Let's hear it.
The blank check becomes the stolen check. I think that's putting the theater at risk, or
Yeah.
the movie at risk.
Yeah, but I think so. Let's just say this succeeds. Like, dude, let's just say this is close to $1 billion or at $1 billion.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, Chris Nolan is untouchable. Like, he can do whatever he wants. But if this ends up like Tenet, that's going to be another, that's because that was 2020. What was the date on that? Not that long ago. Maybe 20.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look.
But the thing is, if it fails, then the studios are going to just double down on, the IP-driven formats and Marvel, right? That's all it's going to be.
The thing is, look, Christopher Nolan is like too big to fail, right? I mean, I think this guy could have 5 bombs in a row. And what we've seen in return and what we've seen in theaters, if it's not a kid family movie or a cartoon or a superhero Marvel movie, Christopher Nolan's really the only one who's making anything out there that's, intellectual or different. So I think Hollywood's going to keep giving this guy money until he has, 5 bombs in a row. I think they're just going to keep letting him go.
Yeah. Right. Like he's got such a stellar track record, and I think people have a tendency to get amnesia after one or two flops. They usually recover.
Yeah.
But this is huge, man. I mean, I'm gonna watch it. I think it's like the big picture takeaway is for 2026. It's like the franchise dominance versus like this big, huge original risk. Because IP films, I mean, it's generally speaking, it's safe money. These originals like this, I know it's been done before, but still, it's somewhat of an original, huge upside, but potentially huge losses. That's the major con to this one.
Yeah, I gotta say, I really do hope it's something different, right? I hope it's. So I watched The Return. I don't know, maybe about a month ago. Ralph Fiennes. It's from 2024.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't terrible. It was okay. It moved way slow. But then, like, and I know this is not really a fair comparison, but you compare it to something like The Gladiator, where you got tons of action scenes. The opening scene of Gladiator might be one of my favorite top 5 scenes, when the dog's running along the horse, unleash hell, and the fireballs are flying. And then it just couple little slow spots, action, couple little slow spots, action. 300, tons of action. Like, I hope that Christopher Nolan just packed this thing with action, and it's not a lot of
Dialogue.
sitting on the beach with Tom Holland running around as the kid, and like, I just, if there's not a lot of action in it, I'm going to really struggle with trying to get through this thing.
Yeah,
but that's just me. All right, you want to see another trailer?
Sure. I didn't know we had another one.
I do. I have my favorite Odyssey, Ulysses adaptation.
Here we go.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know, but
here we go. Favorite
sounds interesting.
Adaptation of the Odyssey.
Hello, sir. How's my little girl?
He ain't our daddy.
I am the only daddy you got. I am the damn paterfamilias.
Now Mama's got a new beau.
Vernon here's got a job. Vernon's got prospects. He's
bona
bonafide.
fide.
What are you?
You can't marry him.
I can, I am, and I will.
This gentleman bothering you?
Well, you can't marry my wife. And stay out of the Woolworth.
Love this freaking movie. This is the Odyssey, man. This is how the Odyssey is supposed to be made.
Ulysses Everett McGill will do anything.
Hey, any boy, Smitty.
But he's about to get off on the wrong track.
Who elected you leader of this outfit?
Well, Pete, I figured it should be the one with the capacity for abstract thought. Boys, you just stick with me. Man, we're in a tight spot.
If you guys haven't recognized it when you're watching with a new set of eyes. His name's Ulysses.
Okay.
He's trying to get home. There are the sirens. Oh, did I do that? Shit. Sirens out in the water. Girls in the water. I had to turn that off before Mark lost track of what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Complete. That's how the Odyssey should have been when we had to read it back in high school. I would have definitely paid more attention.
I never read it. I was just all about the Cliff Notes.
You know, I met a guy the other day. He said he's never read a book in his life. I'm getting way off topic here, but I was just fascinated by that. He's never read a book.
I don't believe it.
He's like 50. How can you be 50 and never read a book?
I just can't believe that. I mean, I haven't read a ton of books, but I mean, I've read books, but to not ever read a book in 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're born in some country where, literature and schooling is non-existent. Okay. But you're in America, Jack. I mean, The Catcher in the Rye, everybody had to read that, right? Like, you had to read that.
Yeah. And I guess if you read the Cliff Notes, does that count as reading a book?
It doesn't. I don't think it does, but dude, even like the children's books, that counts as a book. Like, if you didn't read
a book
like
to your kid, Green Eggs and Ham,
Three Pigs, I mean, Goldilocks, that's a book. That counts.
All right, so I've got a quick breakdown, so everybody's prepared. Speaking of Cliff Notes, and for all of you who have never read the book, I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of the movie so you walk in and you know what we're talking about. I figure it was the least I could do to try to educate some of you degenerates out there who listen to this show. So, starts with the
Trojan War
in Troy. The Spartans at Crete. The Cretans at Sparta. What's that from? Guys, everything I know about history, I learned from a movie. So if it wasn't in a movie, I don't know what's going on. History of the World, Part 1.
Oh, jeez, man.
We just celebrate our victory of the Cretans at Sparta. The Spartans at Crete. All right, back to this. So you got Odysseus leaving. He goes through the Lotus Eaters, the Cyclops, Circe, the underworld. going to blow this name up. Scylla and Charybdis. And then the cattle of the sun, which were owned by the gods, and his men eat the cows, and they blow up the boat. And then Odysseus is the sole survivor trying to get home to Telemachus and his wife, Penelope, with a bunch of imposters, a bunch of suitors. And they have to perform a test that only Odysseus can do. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You guys should have paid more attention in high school. But Odysseus can do it, proves that he is who he is, and they all live happily ever after. After every soldier who just fought in the Trojan War for 1,000 years dies because they ate the cows. So that's everything you need to know about the Odyssey in 18 seconds. So I hope that was educational.
I think it was. It was for me.
Yeah. You had no idea that there was even a person called Circe in the story.
I did about an hour and a half ago. And hey, just remember, I'm fresh off of Circe in my memory because I just finished Game of Thrones.
And the only reason you know Circe is because she's played by Charlize Theron. You're like, whoa, who is that?
Yeah, and she still looks good.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that whoever this Antonius guy is, I hope he dies early in the movie because I can't look at Robert Pattinson for 3 hours. I did it the other day, and I said, oh, Robert Pattinson and Zendaya in the drama and in the movie, and this movie too. So they spent a lot of time together.
That's right. What was the name of that movie?
The Drama.
That's The Drama.
Yeah.
Yes, which I haven't seen yet.
Watch it online. Wait till it comes on Prime or something. It was good.
I don't think we did mention the release date for the Odyssey. We should
July 17th.
July 17th.
July 17th. Which
So
I got to add to my calculation, which I forgot to mention.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of all over the place tonight. We got to get back into a groove. July 10th, Moana live action, which we know is going to make $1 billion, comes out on the 10th. And Spider-Man Brand New Day comes out on the 31st. So you got the Odyssey literally has about, people are going to be carrying the wave of Moana. See what I did there? Carrying the wave of Moana.
Wow, brilliant.
From the 10th. Then
Swinging.
you got to swimmingly down to the next weekend.
Yes.
Then you got to get into the Odyssey, which they've already spent all their money for the month going to see Moana with the whole family and the kids. And what they didn't spend, they're going to save up to go see Spider-Man Brand New Day. Odyssey's got a lot of stuff stacked against it, man.
So it's sandwiched in. What is Odyssey rated R or PG-13? I hope it's R.
I don't know the answer to that.
Let's see.
What do you got?
I don't see it.
This movie is yet to be rated. No, I don't know. I made that up. No, I don't know.
Oh.
Expected rating PG-13, likely, maybe an R.
Okay.
Yeah. It says most of Nolan's high-budget tentpole films, list a whole bunch of movies, all come in as a hard PG-13.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer was an R-rated movie, but it was primarily around the subject matter and the violence. The concern from a PG-13 to an R rating has to do with the slaying of the suitors. And that's going to be the biggest, I guess there's a lot of violence in this, which is good because that's means there's action, but a visceral and gritty depiction of Greek warfare and the slaying of the suitors, which might give it that rating. But right now, PG-13.
That makes sense.
Yeah. All right. I think we beat this Trojan horse to death. I'm rolling. I'm rolling through the topics. Guys, when you didn't read the book when you were 16 and 17, the Trojan horse is what they actually hide inside. And in the trailer where the guy gets stabbed and he covers his mouth, that's inside a big wooden horse. So in case you guys need to know that.
Yeah. And they were like, don't scream. Don't scream.
You shut your mouth.
See, I mean, this, when I first saw the clip, it kind of reminded me a little bit of, well, obviously Troy, with Brad Pitt and Eric Bana, whatever his name is.
Eric Bana.
Bana, yeah.
He's an unsung, underappreciated actor in Hollywood. He should have stayed with the Hulk. He was my favorite Hulk.
No,
Although Ed
not
Norton is an okay Hulk too, but
dude. I think Ruffalo was just he was the best. His character was just, you know,
more comic, right? More comedy, a little bit of comedy relief.
yeah, and he was proper when needed. So I think he was to me, I think he was he was at least my favorite Hulk. I think Ed Norton was too serious.
Coming out of American History X and walking into the Hulk.
Right.
And Fight Club. American History X, Fight Club.
Yeah.
I'm going to go be the Hulk. Yeah, that's a tough transition.
Yeah.
All right. Man, I got so much to talk about from this weekend. I could keep going. Not really, there's guys, I don't really promote other podcasts, but I was telling Mark about it. There's a podcast that's out there, and maybe if I can get on their radar, they can promote us, but it's called What Went Wrong. And if you like the data-driven format that we kind of go into around the movies, this guy, I can't remember his name, he is all about the data. And I listened to the episode he did on Halloween with John Carpenter. I learned you guys know that movie scared the crap out of me because my sister didn't love me and put me in front of that movie when I was 9. But I learned so much about that movie. I was glued to that podcast for over an hour just listening to him talk about all the data and everything that he went through. So if you like data-driven content, you want to listen to something that's interesting, I definitely recommend that. What Went Wrong? Definitely a good one. So first time I ever plugged another podcast, and Mark and I have listened to a lot of them, and usually I walk away disappointed, but that's definitely a good one. And if, there's 3 million podcasts out there. So if we can find a couple good ones that people listen to and enjoy, it's the least I could do is to make the recommendation.
Did you check how many followers he has on?
I did not. I was really just bouncing across a bunch, and then I heard the way he was talking about just these intricate details of the movie and John Carpenter.
Right. Like you and I were interested in the data aspect of, because, we're by trade, we're in the data. Technical industry. I'd be curious to see how many followers he has, because a lot of people are just not into it like we are, which that's fine. People are like, oh, who cares? I thought the movie was great. And that's it. Right. Like there's no other, recount of like why they liked it or not. It was just I liked it, and that was it.
I'm trying to see how many subscribers or whatever he has.
If you say like 80, I'm gonna be like, boo.
No, I don't know. I don't even know how to find it. That's how bad I am at this stuff. But what I don't like is if you want to listen to all like the unedited content and like behind the scenes stuff, you got to pay them $5. So I don't really like that because I'm not paying anybody $5 to listen. But they have 196 episodes.
Wow.
So they have a lot of episodes. They've been around for a long time.
Interesting.
Yeah. But we're checking out if you guys are looking for something, and run through our 13 or 14 episodes. So
to our audience, just be glad we don't charge $5 for a subscription to this channel.
Yeah, we'll pay.
Right.
I think somebody wanted us to send them hot dogs.
We're gonna DoorDash somebody a hot dog.
So ridiculous.
I think we covered everything tonight. Oh, what is our projected gross for this movie? I'm thinking it's gonna land anywhere between 850 and 900. That's just my gut telling me. Matt Damon, with or without Matt Damon, I think it lands right there.
Yeah, I'm right at 800. So I think it's going to go somewhere between 700 and 800, and I think Christopher Nolan will push it up a little bit. So to your point, huge cast, and this is really the summer of Tom and Zendaya. Do they have a name? Zen Holland or something? Like what's their Tom Daya? But Zen Amos?
I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tongue twister.
Yeah. So it's the summer of them. So I think they're going to do really well, and they have a lot of momentum right now. So it's going to be good.
Oh, that would be a tough coming up with a singular name for the like the other ones are easy. Bennifer, right? Yeah. That's easy.
Tom Daya.
I don't know. I think we're reading like way too much into it. I don't even think is that even still in where we give a singular name to a couple? Like, is that still a thing?
I don't know. We're all about coming up with new things. We got zombie streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're coming up with some metrics that people can start tracking. We did get the new award on the Oscars. So now we're going to come up with a new name for T&Z. Huh? How about that?
TNZ. Oh, that is good. I think that sticks.
Yeah.
That
TNZ.
totally sticks.
It's the summer of T&Z.
Damn, that's a good one, man. You are very creative this week. I mean,
Yeah,
that 1 week hiatus, I think it just, everything
that and the
bubbled
4
up.
edibles. They'll get you through anything. Guys, if you're listening, there's no edibles. Don't get upset. The closest thing I have to do an edible is a high chew.
Oh boy. All right, I guess we close it out. Let's listen to our outro music.
All right, 800,000. We'll see where it goes. We appreciate everybody staying with us tonight. This will be live or posted within the next day or so. And here we go. Okay, mkpcast.com, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. If you want to watch the videos, you got to go to Spotify or YouTube. And you will also be able to get us on your Apple Music or any of your favorite podcast streaming. We will get our predictions updated, so make sure you check out MKPcast. We're actually talking about maybe a lot of requests for merch. So we might have a little bit of merch coming up in the near future that we're putting out. And thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate everybody being here. And enjoy your Thursday night and letting us come into your home. Thank you.